What's going on, legend? Well, welcome back to Beyond the 90, and we've got another video for you. Today, we're going to be looking at something a little bit different. I've been thinking about should I cover the two matches? Should I cover individual things that have happened so far? And I'll cover a little bit before we get started, but the main bulk of this video is going to be we've got Fiorentina coming to the King Power Stadium on Sunday. What are we going to do? So I'm going to give you my formation, combination of how Marty's actually going to set up and the players that I would start in this match ready for Sheffield Wednesday. As you've probably seen, Sheffield Wednesday are in an absolute state. It's getting worse by the week. Danny Roll has left. Um, Half the players, I think they've got 10 players over the age of 21. It's an absolute disaster. Anyway, before we get into that, before we get into the rest of it, I just want to go into another part. Leicester City have confirmed Asmir Begovic on a 1-year deal. Now, I'll be honest, I think it's not a bad appointment. Is it like something that's going to set the world on fire? For me, no. It's just an okay appointment. Sorry, I think it's a sensible appointment. What I've liked is that normally with these players, we've given them like 3 years or maybe 2 years, but they've been quite sensible. I think part of that reason as well is because A, he knows Martí Cifuentes. B, we're pretty broke, let's be honest. We don't have a lot of money. So he's the only player we're going to bring in. C, let's be honest, he's going to be the second keeper. Similar to kind of Mark Schwarzer vibes when we had him, what was it, 10 years ago now? 10 years ago when we signed him. But yeah, I don't really want to make a separate video about it because there's not really too much to go off of. So let's get into it. So I'm going to show you the image, etc., of what we've got for this one. Sevens games again. Begovic I was going to mention as well. This kind of says it all. I'll contribute anything I can. That's a kind of like I think from that he knows he's not going to be the first keeper. For this, I'm going to go through the formations, but I'm just going to look at the men's team first of all. I'm not going to concentrate on goalkeepers because just before we start, as a caveat, I'm going to expect a couple of people to probably leave before the window. One man is this, Matt Hermansen. If he still wears at the end of the window or when we start our first game, I think he starts. But I think there's a reason why we're not seeing him. I think partly because he's going to be transferred out. I know West Ham are heavily linked to him at the moment. And so he's one of them that I would just not put in the squad. Not because I don't think he's better than Jakub, but I think just the fact that, let's be honest, he's probably not going to be here and we need to sell. The other one would probably be Bilal. And even though if we keep him, oh, we're gonna walk the championship. He's gonna dog walk half the players. Like he's him, Monga, Bavadini, Fatawu. Oh my God, that's gonna be insane. So I'm not including these two in my formations. So obviously we've got Begovic to be added in, but I've just put Solarchik in there to start. I've got our 4-2-3-1 that he likes to play. I'll show you the in possession, out possession formations and how they work. But I think we can all agree from what we've seen so far, Solarchik's going to be the number one. The only two other goalkeepers we've got are going to be backups for that the under 23s keeper, for the third keeper. That's it basically. So Solarchik, I don't think anybody's really going to argue with me here. Now let's go back to the defenders. So there are a lot of defenders at the club. There are some ones that I think are not very good, that we need to move on, that we haven't so far. There's some really promising talent, and there's some complete unknowns. Woya Koulibaly, I don't know what to make of him because I've just not seen him in this preseason, in last season. I think he could work quite well in the system because he is quite an attacking fullback, and he can probably come in if he's playing on this right wing or this left wing. So, and play up in this position. We've got again, in this position here. I think we could, but there's a reason why we've not seen him. Maybe it's another reason, I don't know, but let's be honest, that's one of the positions that I just don't see. I just don't know why he's not getting any minutes. So Koulibaly, I'm not going to look at. Let's just close this one. And we're looking at this at the moment. So defenders wise, look at it's kind of a little bit of a reminisce back to the last games. There are defenders that are not good enough. I'll be honest, some people that haven't got any minutes that I think probably if we can get rid. Victor Christensen. Probably another one, Connor Cody. Yannick Vestergaard, them two for the first goal. The fact that they are for the first goal against Cologne, the fact that they are so slow, and the fact that they are experienced players that can't communicate. Remember the likes of Wes Morgan and Robert Huth. Yes, they weren't fast defenders, especially towards the latter ends of their career, but they put themselves in decent positions and they use their physicality. These two don't use it. So I ideally I'd want them both gone. Let's be honest. A player that until I looked at this, I didn't even realize he's out of the squad for now. Harry Suter's not going to be. He's got a ACL injury. We don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. But again, hopefully he has a speedy recovery, and let's see if he can play in this kind of team. I don't know if he's the kind of defender that Cifuentes would want to use in his career, but just thought I'd mention it. So back line is going to be a back four. But bearing in mind with this formation, even if it's a back four, what's more common now is that we play one of them will tuck in and one of them will push, not just in here, not so what have used to happen for before is that Kindred before was here in Enzo, Ndidi would drop begin to here, and then Ricardo would drop in. So you've got your five and you've got your five, and everybody will shift over a little bit. So it'd be like this. So what we've seen so far from this position and from how we've played so far um, is that it's more of a 4-2-3-1. We've seen the fullback instead of going here would go all the way up to there, either left or right, and we'd play three at the back. Also, instead of sometimes this, we might even send another winger forward and actually drop the likes of Harry Winks into this back line, which I've seen sometimes. So this gives us again the five as well, but instead of the one player going up high, one player kind of inverting, or even playing as this position where you're giving somebody like a Monga to just go to town, as has been just embarrassing defenders that are twice his age. So yeah, so that's something. Coming back to where we were beforehand. So if we go back to the formation and where we played. Do do do. So we've got this. This is how the back line will be. So you've got to think about when these two players are bombing on. Let's say you probably spotted a little bit. Ricardo over putting one of the players, another player up here. These two players, I don't think you can afford to be slow. I think Connor Cody is too slow. And I think that there's a couple of players in mind that I would actually play. And one of them might surprise. One of them's not going to surprise you. Let's be honest. Ben Nelson. I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. I think he's impressed. I think that when he came on against Cologne as well, he looked really good. He looked really solid player. And I've really enjoyed the football he was playing. Now, the second one is probably going to surprise you, but I probably need to do this first. You're probably thinking one, and you're looking at those, look at that, and you go, okay, which one would you pick? Now, for me, in the longer term, I would go for a Coley. Starting, however, at the beginning when we're starting, uh, I think Coley has been good. I like his pace, I like his power, I like his aggression. But for now, I'd actually start Wildfast. Now, Wildfast isn't good enough for the championship, isn't good for the Premier League. But for the championship, he will look great. And I think Nelson looks short, looks sturdy. And I think putting Walt Fast next to him with that aggression, his ability to drive and his pace in behind, I think he would be the right person to start. When it comes to later on in the game and later on in the season, I would bring in a Coley for Nelson. Sorry, a Coley for Fast overall. But at this moment in time, against Fiorentina, I would play this. Now, one player already spotted at the moment is Ricardo. I mean, he's pretty much irreplaceable. However, I have been really impressed with Aluko. I think he's looked really self-assured. I think he's looked really. I was surprised in a good way of how much how good he was. But also, if we're playing this position with up here, the amount of ground he covered. Have I got it in here? Was it against this one? No, he didn't. I don't think he played Luco. It doesn't work for this one. But Luco overall, um, I was really impressed with how much he got up and down the pitch. I can't. I think it's changed around slightly. So Aluko would be another one. Luke Thomas on the left-hand side, though, is a player that has been used a lot in pre-season, a surprising amount. Um, he's been used in all sorts of positions. He's been used as the back three. So, for example, if I move over, I'll put Ricardo up there. Let's be honest, Ricardo's. I think no, I don't think anybody will disagree with me that Ricardo would start with a Luca as a backup that can come in and play certain games. With Ricardo, I just don't want him to get another injury. If he's playing, even if he's playing 60 minutes, then bring a Luca on for the extra speed. That's absolutely fine. But remember, some of the roles that they'll be here, but they won't be coming in here. They'll be going straight into it. Now it's who would pair up nicely because I think Ricardo could do some really good damage, and we saw this before with Enzo, where at times where a team would sit back, we would play. You've got your 4-2-3-1. We used to have Ndidi here. You'd have your Kinjus Hall. You'd have Fatawu, Mavididi, and he would start to push in Ricardo and leave Harry Winks as the lone pivot. So you've really crowded that midfield and trying to get something out of it. Anyway, so yeah, so Ricardo, I can see playing this role. A lot of running. Aluko, I could see coming in as well. So for this, the left-hand side, you're going to want a player that can either come in, that can drift in, that can play along wherever he needs to play. Now, Luke Thomas has been used the most. I personally would like to see Koulibaly be given a shot, but I think there's the reason why he hasn't been since he's joined in Leicester since Leicester. But the player that is pretty much straightforward that you're probably thinking of, James Justin. Justin's quite comfortable. I think he's adept. So when Ricardo runs up, he will tuck in. And then if we do need extra bodies, we will see Justin come over here, providing that support and providing that mid press. And I think this is something that we're going to we're going to see a lot of. And at times when Monga will lose the ball or when Monga's on this side, which again is pretty much a given for this starting lineup, at times when he's taken on two or three men and they've got so much power and so much, let's put him in now. This one needs no introduction. Hey, let's put Monga on the left. Monga and Justin, I think, works quite well because you've got the experience, but then also if they do lose the ball, you bring this player over here, and then you've got your back three that you can work in as well. So Monga walks into the team. Mavididi is another really good shout that potentially could play there as well. So we've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in so far. Now for the double pivot. So we've got our back line there, but even then Justin doesn't come in. You've got Koulibaly, who I'd have as backup. You've got Luke Thomas, who I'd still keep. Christensen, I'd try and move on if we can as well. But I don't think there'll be a lot of people coming for him. I've not seen anything in Christensen that's made me really, either in pre-season or just in the last season, that's really made me like him as a player. Might be a nice dude, but yeah, it's just not really worked out for him. Let's go to the double pivot now. Again, what do we want from the double pivot? Now, before, most of the time we've seen Winks and Skip play in these positions. I'll be honest, I've really not been impressed with Skip. Not just because of the amount of money and it's just for the player that I thought we were going to get. I've not seen the quality, and it's not just about the price tag. It's about what I've seen him on the ball. I don't see what his overall attribute is. He's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And I think in this formation, we can't afford to have those kind of players. Anyway, coming into this football, one player that has impressed me has been Harry Winks. And I think he walks into the side. Now, if we just go back to this, I think Harry Winks is one of probably the best central midfielder we've got. Now, looking at these ones, we've got the options of the middle. Sammy Braybrook has been named in this position as a CDM. He could potentially play there as well. I think he would be used as backup, but we've not really seen him this preseason, have we? But now here comes the tough one. Harry Winks, sure. Who else do you put alongside him? Because I'll be honest, I wouldn't start Skip. So our options are Wilfred Ndidi, Samore, Chowdhury. Really easy 3 option. Golding, maybe, but we've not even seen him. So for me, this might be controversial. I'd put in Ndidi. I'd be so and I'm so close to putting in Hamza Chowdhury, but I would say start Ndidi. Why would I start Ndidi over Samore? The main one for me is the defensive, but also he's used if we need to, if we are in defense, he can do that double pivot role. He can do the firefighting, but I think something that is kind of touched out of his game as well is that this is where I nearly put Chowdhury in. We are trying to press and win the ball from the opposition high up. Chowdhury would be better at winning the ball higher up and then giving it. I would like to see Wolf add this to his game, but I would like to, yeah, Wolf coming into this position and pressing. And arguably, it does leave a lot, but getting Wolf and just suffocating, so putting these players and putting this position around. So in Diddy one side, Winks the other, I'd say would be the best double pivot. If we want to try and change and really get the most out of things, I would, and I really, sorry, for example, a team is just sitting back. I would push Ndidi up here. I would put Winks and put Samori in. The problem with Samori is that his concentration is not there. For me, his concentration isn't there at times, and I find it quite frustrating. Um, he goes through phases of this guy will be the next best thing, and he goes through phases where it doesn't really work. So that's the reason why I've left him out of the team. He will be another one. If he gets his act together and his brain in the right place, he will boss the championship. But I think for these two, I would have Winks and Ndidi as my holding. Next thing I'd put in Monger on one side. This one, who's a player that's really impressed me in pre-season. Obviously he was at Cardiff. I know they got relegated, but I think he's been great. I'm really looking forward to this partnership between these two, Monger and Alves. Monger, again, don't think we have to say how amazing this kid is. But Alves has come under the radar because because at times I think um, there will be people that will be double marking Monger, and he will be trying to get the ball. Winks will have the ball, come over to Monger, and Monger will then try and get past the player, and you've got the creativity and the freedom to be able to play players in. Now, when you've got that, Alves can then make these runs. While Monga's trying to do his tricks in here, the two defenders, I think Alves will be able to come in and take that spot and really get into these spaces, either try and create opportunities to shoot or to create another, not just angle, another attacking threat, find the half spaces. I think will be really useful. So for me, I genuinely start Will Alves. I'd just be careful. I know he's come back from an injury, but I'd just be careful of that, and he's still a young player. But on the right hand side, Fatawu. I mean, if he's available, if his injury and is going okay, I don't think we've got too many other options that are that much better. Jake Evans is another good example. Let's go back to this. Have a look here. Casey has looked okay. Is like decent. As I mentioned, I wanted to be a bit more brave. And if for me, Fatawu is in that position. Um, but I'd love to see Casey just drive, be a bit more brave, commit to your bodies, knowing that you've got Ndidi backing you up. But and I think that one thing that could do if we are playing is try and play this potential later down the line. When you've got this, if you've got these two wingers bombing on, I could genuinely see. I wouldn't say this is my final lineup. I could see McAteer playing in this cam role as a false nine. I could then a false nine or as a nine. And I think one thing he's underrated at, and where we really saw him get a lot of joy, was at the beginning of last season when Vardy was in the team. Say Fatah was Vardy, for example. McAteer was on the right hand side. Vardy obviously lost a little bit of pace, but he would bring in, McAteer would bring the pace and he would arrive in these positions just for a tap in finish. He needs to get better at that. But obviously, since Vardy's not here, you've got your runners around him. He just needs to make these runs into really good areas, like he did for the goal against Cologne. I know it was outside the box a little bit, but I want him to, as a striker, to be up in these positions. So I wouldn't start McAteer. I would use him as a rotation option, but I think he could play on the Monga's position. I could think he could play Fatawa's position. I think he could potentially take up some of the roles. His physicality is really useful for the team. And it's great that we've got this strength in depth, even if we aren't going to bring in any more players or get rid of any more players. The player I would start would be Ayew, one of our highest goal scorers last season. I think he does I think he's made for the championship as well. His physicality, his finishing, I think has been good. I know Daka scored 2 goals. I really wasn't impressed by the penalty. It was lucky that the keeper didn't save it with his legs. Um, but Daka he's got so much potential. How many players we said that about potential, but he's not really lived up to it. And I think Daka, I'm not sure. And there's a reason why against Cologne, which I think this team was again split, but you can see there was a mixture of certain players, people that we were going to mention. Um, there's only certain players. Majority of this team, if you notice, I wouldn't start out of this lineup. Lewis Page is another option. I've not even considered him yet. He's not been named in like the midfielders. Looking at the forwards, again, Mavididi, again, strength and depth. Marcel, hit or miss with him at the moment. Jake Evans, I think, is a player as well that could replace Ayew as a false nine. Coming back, linking up, allowing players to run behind, but at the same time can then arrive and score goals. I think this is the position that people are saying we need a striker, we need a striker. And I can understand that. But I think with our current situation, I think we can get away with not having a recognised striker. And ironically, the only recognised striker that we have is probably the least likely person I would play in this position. But I would start Ayew. Good, overall solid person. Will get you. He's got the physicality. My only thing is he can't just stick his bum out and fall over all the time. He needs to start playing people in and trying to play that. So if we look at it that way, and we look at this and formation wise, and we bring this, well, I'll leave this because this is the attacking formation. Let's be honest, we're going to be attacking a lot of the time. Here's the box in the middle. Ayew, Monga, Fatawu. I think this is a really lovely blend. If I get this all up, Slarchek, Justin Fast, Nelson. Looking at this as a unit has a really great blend of experience, youth, talent, and let's be honest, with some of these players that we've got, there's a lot more, not just experience in terms of there's experience, but the experienced players maybe not as much. But there's some young talent like Lewis Page we've mentioned a Luco that's there. Um, who else is really like Jake Evans, as we've not mentioned so far as well. Braybrook, Jury's out, as Golding could be another position. So if we're playing this position, I could see Golding being given this role if we're in the championship. If we're in the champion, if we are going to play championship football, we'll need that rotation. But we've got a really solid squad. Again, El Canous, if he comes into this position, we are laughing, genuinely laughing. I would put him in here as well, but I've left them two out because I think they won't be here come the end of the transfer window. So that's a little bit of my thoughts. Overall, looking at this with the different formations, I found it really quite insightful and quite useful to have a look at. But anyway, that's my thoughts on all this. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. Hopefully you like this kind of videos. It'll be really interesting to see the game on Sunday. If you have any thoughts, do leave them in the comments below. I'm trying to get to as many comments as possible. Thank you, everyone. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye.